my song. Let's sing it. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be fucking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be fucking awesome. That's it, sing. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Yeah!
Hey, it is I, Jesse Blaze Snyder, the coolest geek alive. How you guys doing? It is Thursday for me. I had 2 teeth pulled. Let me know if I sound any different. This is going to be my first time actually talking at any length since my, not surgery or anything. I mean, I guess surgery. I was awake for it and they pulled out my damn teeth. No fun. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. Somebody was at the door. Anyway, yeah, I'm like 2 teeth down, but I was having a lot of trouble with them, so I'm hoping that when I recover from having them removed, I'll be feeling a lot better, at least on that side. I've had so many dental problems. Dentist shit is no fun, guys. If you're out there and you're having dental problems, Care Bear Stare to you specifically. But Care Bear Stare to you all. I love you guys. Today we're going to be talking about, shit that I guess is like controversial. Controversial to smaller minds. My audience is capable of having these conversations. The Boys. The Boys is so disappointing. I read the comic for a while. It was really over the top, and in the comic, he never really, Garth Ennis, the writer, he never really humanized the villains. And it was kind of just like goofy, stupid villain of the week. And when you've seen variations of characters done before, there's been so many in comics that have been done before. And, some of him were good, but most of them were just sort of like crap, I thought. And it was sort of a statement of like, they're all crap, so they're all crap. But the Boys themselves were great characters. They were all interesting in their own way and filled a unique space on the team. And in the comics, they get souped up with V. Just a simple version of it, which turns them into Supermen. Quite brutal Supermen. And super female. Early in this, at the very beginning of the series, they are coming up against these superheroes and handing them their asses and have a certain amount of equality to their stature amongst each other. In the Boys TV series, they went another way and they kept them human for the bulk of, or at least I guess like the first 2 seasons. And then by the 3rd season, they started to look at giving them powers. But they've given them, like, Huey had like a teleportation type power or something like that, where he's teleporting out of his pants. And, Butcher has I don't know what it is. It's like something inside of him that's like venom that like sends out tendrils. That's like super powerful and he can like kill anybody, it seems. In the comics, they were limited, and limitation is a great thing sometimes for storytelling. They were all basically limited except for the ones who were unique, like the female, who was just a little bit more brutal. She would always be ripping people's faces off. They were limited to this brutality and cleverness. The whole thing was that they always had, a plan within a plan within a plan, a backup plan. Butcher was smart. He'd learned from really smart people how to do these things in ways you wouldn't imagine. Now, I did not read the comic I don't know. I don't want to say long. Probably read like half of it based on. I went through a whole thing. I was like watching because I only remembered. It wasn't so much even that I didn't remember, but watching the show and my memory of the comic, I was like, did they do that in the comic? I don't remember that they did that in the comic. And of course, everything that I didn't remember was because it hadn't been in the comic. And it seemed like I read like half the series. I think it was like 60 something issues or something. And maybe I read the first 30 something. I liked it, but I used to read a lot of books, and there have been various times that I was like, all right, gotta whittle it down. You know, The Boys, I like it, but I'm not loving it. Maybe one day I'll pick up the rest in trades. And I never did that. So I always viewed it as sort of like something that had really great promise, but didn't exactly deliver. Man, talking with my teeth missing and my tongue is up against my other tooth, I guess that's exposed. Right now, it's not very comfortable. I have to get used to that. So when the TV series came out, I was kind of excited to see it because I'd always thought the premise was really good and that the main characters were really good and the casting looked really good. And you know, the villains hadn't really been humanized. Having a human embody the thing is helpful there. You know, that's why sometimes there's just like characters in literature that are devoid of anything you can latch onto because there's no human. But when there's a human, even if they have no dialogue, anything, you know, you can feel a certain way about the human. And looked like the casting was good, all these things. So when I watched the show, I was like, this is great. They fixed a lot of the problems. They brought some of the more interesting elements to the forefront. Put a nice focus on the 7, you know, for the sake of television season or whatever. And the boys were really nailed for the most part. But they made a lot of little changes. And I won't get into all like the nitty gritty of the changes that they do in the show compared to what they do in the comics. But the premise in the comics was pretty simple. They were this CIA Black Ops team that was in charge of keeping the superheroes in line. And they were good at doing that and essentially had carte blanche to do it. And there was interesting reasons why all of these people had been affected really hard by these assholes who were just fucking didn't have a care in the world, didn't care about other people. And I mean, that's the thing, you know, Garth would sometimes play certain people, you know, certain types of people that he didn't like as like caricatures just to lampoon them. But the ongoing caricature of every single one of these superheroes being awful people, it in the comics it was like, okay, we're good. In the show, however, it really got done right. Now they kept away the brutality of the boys and them having the V, which I thought was cool, and could be really cool for when they got the V. But then the moment they got the V, they set it up as like something they had to take regularly, and they didn't want to be drug addicts. And this isn't a premise from the comics. And the you don't want to be drug addicts thing really makes it like, okay, so nobody should do this because then we've set it up that the whole team is a team of drug addicts if they are doing this. So that was weird. And I was like, okay, well, I guess they're not going to get to the place where they're all doing, you know, having V. And immediately, too, they gave Yui some stupid powers where he's taken out of his clothes and he's, he's teleporting everywhere, as opposed to the very simple black trench coat brutality of the boys, which was wonderful in its simplicity, especially juxtaposed against all these superheroes with these varying power sets and all these things. And they had to figure out how to be regular blokes who could throw a punch and still win the fight or whatever by being clever. And there's a lot of cleverness and clever writing and clever stories. And Garth Ennis, the writer of The Boys, co-creator or whatever, he's a big war fan. He loves war history. In his spare time, he reads a lot about war and war tactics and things like that. And The Boys is loaded with CIA tactics and secret, what's SS and all these sort of intelligence agency tactics. And I can tell you tons of the things that are on display in the comic are straight out of books about various operations that have gone down and things that have gone down. Honey trap operations and variations of them. There's a lot of that goes on in The Boys, the comic. Now, I really loved the first season. The Boys are great. There's a thing or two that I don't necessarily love about Huey. In the comics, he was a weak-willed guy who had been put through such craziness that it forced him to develop a real backbone. And he became like the person who would call Butcher out kind of thing on his bullshit. And Butcher'd be like, all right, maybe you're right, Huey, whatever. And I don't know if it's that Jack Quaid doesn't see himself as the picture depicted as Wee Huey. So he's like putting on a little bit of a nebbish act. But that bit of like a formerly guy who would never stand up to a person like Butcher doesn't quite play, also because of his height. And I mean, he is a little bit smaller than Carl Urban, who plays Butcher, but that character just doesn't play exactly the same for me. Similarly, Starlight's in love with him in the comics because he's different, because he's real, and because they connect together in this interesting way and on a couple interesting sort of experiences. In the TV series, he's a little bit of a cuck. Like, there's this moment where, like, I don't want to spoil. Well, it's really crap, so I'm gonna spoil a part of the new season. But there's a moment where Huey's tricked into thinking that his girlfriend Starlight's asking him to marry him. And he's got a ring he's had in his pocket this whole time, but he's been scared to ask her. And based on the feeling of the series and stuff, you don't feel like, oh, yeah, she's going to be all about that. Like, one, she's going through things and stuff, but she's also not lovey-dovey to him and sweet to him. And they have him on a, I hope this continues to work out kind of playing field. In the comics, they let a lot of these things play out longer over more time than they do in the series, and that's okay. But it really comes down to, what do you call it? I guess male sexism that's been going on in a lot of these DEI productions. And I don't want to, I understand, you bring up some of these things, people are getting discounted online. I watched some things, people are saying The Boys went woke, and now that there's this, there's been this decree from on high in the media that if you say woke now, you can be dismissed. And that's shorthand woke for a thing that all the people who understand what that means, who aren't part of the mind virus. But if you're part of the mind virus, I'll explain to you. Woke means that there is inorganic activity going on to force diversity, equity, inclusion upon me in one way or another. There's a ton of additional things that this leads to. Like, women are being done such a disservice. The idea that we need a matriarchy is a good idea. But a matriarchy will be filled with feminized, or not feminized, but people who have feminine energy and are capable of leading more empathically and more cooperatively. Somebody like, and I don't mean to pat myself on the back here, I'm just saying I'm a type of person, a more feminine masculine, I'm a man, yeah, but I've always felt more feminine. I didn't necessarily feel like a girl or anything, but didn't necessarily feel like a boy either. And I'm by nature a more feminine kind of dude. The women that we're putting into power right now, they're very masculine women. There are feminine women like Tulsi Gabbard or somebody like that. There are cool people who we could get in there who have feminine energy and empathy and can go and do. Jordan Peterson is a very feminine man. So as much as the fucking left wants to demonize him as like some crazy right-wing guy, he's a super sensitive, empathic psychiatrist. He spends all his time thinking about people and how they think and how they interact and trying to help people. So it's like crazy mischaracterizations that go on, and that mischaracterization has moved over to the leading female. Emily Blunt had a great quote where she was just like, "When I see strong leading female at the top of the script, I just like throw it in the garbage." And if you don't understand, this is a woman who's been in the industry long enough. She's getting hit with a lot of those strong leading female roles because she's done it really well a few times. I don't know if you ever saw Edge of Tomorrow. Great fucking movie. And she's gotten enough of these scripts and read enough of them to go, these characters are hollow. This is a cardboard cutout of a woman. This isn't a woman. This is like a sexless, macho thing with tits. And that's a lot of the representation that you get for women. And there's a lot of that in this show. A lot of strong women. This is not... I love strong women. Every girl I've ever gone out with is like kind of macho, but like pretty. I like pretty girls, and I act like a man in public, but my personality is more feminine, so I look for women who are really tough. I love strong women. But the strong women that I know have never been these cardboard cutouts that I'm seeing on screen over and over again. And the representation of gay people is like really fucking... There's such an emphasis put on their sexual practices. It's like when it's straight people, we don't like bother taking too much time with this most of the time. We really don't. If you read like some of the Marvel comics and stuff, it changes the whole story. Like everything's about their dates and like, it's like Spider-Man stories about him being late for the date, and like we see him show up at the end and he's like, "Hey, I'm so sorry I'm late," and like maybe we see a quick moment of it. I've said a million times, if Peter Parker was gay and Mary Jane was Marty Jacobs, the Spider-Man stories should not need be adjusted one iota. Unless you want to put in like some real world idea that some people are put off by that, or at least they had been in the past. I don't really think there's a big pushback for any of this stuff today. I think there's a big pushback for the waving your dicks in the street in a gay pride parade. Like, it really does seem like, all right, we waved our dicks in the street long enough. Like, everybody's cool. We're cool. But that's not what the media wants to tell you. The media wants to tell you, oh my God, if you're voting Trump, then you want everybody rounded up into internment camps. And, I know people on both sides. And I got to say to my friends on the left who are believing this, you guys are crazy. People on the right, there's not this thing. And there's nothing organized. Not that I can see. I've been looking into, I look into everything. I know shit. But I don't see any evidence of this. I see a very clear and concise effort to make it seem that way. I see that a lot, big time. But I don't really see much evidence for it. And I saw it happen in the fandom before I saw it happen in politics. In the fandom, all these Star Wars fans are racist. They're sexist. They're phobes. They're all this shit. Doctor Who fans, Star Trek fans, Marvel fans, everybody. Every time we didn't like what they made, they said we were bad. And they've lost more women as they've feminized the Marvel products, as we went over all the things. These Furiosa lost women. Less men. They lost everybody. But more women by a significant percentage than men. Men still showed up to see the badass woman. As I said, we like badass women. We read comic books like fucking Vampirella and Lady Death, and yeah, it's a pretty lady, and she's got titties, and she's fighting people. Yay. There's like a real simple thing there. I've talked about this before. Like, I guess you would call me like non-binary, but basically I'm straight. I mean, but like, who knows what tomorrow holds? But I because who gives a shit? But that's just, everybody's into what they're into, and that's fine. Why was I telling you that? But I wrote a song for the Fucking for Our Future comic, which, thank you if anybody participated in raising what did we raise? Like $12,000? It's great. I'm so excited. I haven't got it yet. Still waiting my 14-day waiting period. Sorry, my mouth is swollen, and this is hard to do. So I wrote this song for Fucking for Our Future called Big Titties. And this is going to seem silly, but the lyrics are, nobody doesn't like big titties. Men and women alike love big titties. Boys, girls, and babies love big titties. Just admit that I'm right. You love big titties. Now, the subtle thing that I'm hitting at there is that we all come from a mother. And titties, engorged with milk, is something that appeals to all of us on some level. The idea of the titty, is a night, that's where the milk comes from. So I really don't think that. Now, I guess what I'm saying here is that men and women, they like sexiness and titties and stuff. I'm not really big on bringing too much sex into my stories. It's funny, as a guy who wrote a story called Fucking for Our Future. But if you read my story, you'll see, like, it's not really about sex at all. It's about sort of like procreation and like the need for that and society and, it's about a lot of things. It's comedy. But it's not really about sex. And, sexiness are really simple ways to engage a person with a thing. And there are simple, sort of mathematics that we all like, there's plenty of studies and whatnot that have been done to show that. However, the thing that I often say, just as an aside to this, is that everybody's got somebody who they're like so into, and like they're nervous that other people don't find them attractive and stuff. I really feel like that's something really rife in society. Like, we have somebody that we find really attractive, but we're not sure if other people find them attractive. And we write them off. Not because of our own feeling. I really think like there are unique people. Like there's a unique face for every one of us that we're just like, I don't know. I just love his damn nose. Just love this guy's giant forehead. Or whatever it might be. So, forgive yourself for liking sex and sexiness. I mean, Game of Thrones is a huge, huge show because sex. It's Lord of the Rings, but with sexiness, I mean, and Lord of the Rings had some sexiness too, but not like that. So, the boys on this show, as you really start to look at them, are quite emasculated. And Butcher comes out swinging in the first season. And I think by the end of the second season, they are getting him into a place of, I'm too old for this shit and fuck it and blah, 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 blah. As we already said, Huey's a bit of a sad sack. And you've got Frenchie, who is... very tough in the comics, and here very soft. And in the third season, or maybe the fourth season, they made him bisexual. Which is fine, I guess. It just wasn't an aspect that he held in the comics. That's okay, whatever. But he's very deflated and depressed and whatever. No real masculinity. And Jack Quaid and Carl Urban, as I said, they're brought pretty low. And then Laz Alonso, Mother's Milk, who did have the aspect of like being like sort of like a voice of reason in the comics. He really is like sort of like den mother to the group, and just feminized as well. Even like in his introduction, it's interesting because like Huey's dad's this dopey dude. The dad's not in the comic. They brought in the dad. They wrote a dad so that they could cast the character that Huey was drawn to look like in the comic books, which is, what's his name? I'm blanking on what it is right now. Oh, Simon Pegg. But Simon Pegg, by the time they did this, he was too old. So they've got all these different men, these leading men, and they're kind of limp dick. Just like, I mean, they started out really badass. But by the third season, it all starts to get really limp dick. And they're giving them all these weird powers. So it's away from the subtle brutality of the boys and the cool bit. But you like these characters. Like, I finished the season. I just finished season 4 because I like the characters. But I don't really like the show. And I'll talk more about, what they're doing here that is so kind of nefarious. I mean, I didn't know that the sycophant Homelander supporter they said literally she's based on this other, I forget the lady's name. I don't care. Trump's so-and-so. I don't know if it was secretary or whatever else, but like, you've got this sycophant supporter, and Homelander is Trump, and this is all an allegory for. I mean, they have a show on the last episode where it's like, this is Welcome to January 6th report, which is like the new news show or whatever. All right, if you're out there and you're a writer, I do not recommend doing this. I do not recommend tying yourself into these real world events. I do not recommend dating yourself like this. There was so many more subtle approaches that they could have taken. They could have never came out and said specifically that Trump, what do you think's going to happen when there's a figure in our society who, let's say, and it's getting much higher, I think, than 50-50, but like 50-50 really like him, and the other 50 don't. And you depict him as the worst possible being on planet Earth in your show, and then go out of your way to say, oh yeah, that's that guy that you like, to the audience. And at least 50-50 of the audience likes that guy, or is like at least going to vote for him the same reasons why you might have voted for some Democrat that you didn't like, because you really don't believe in the other side or whatever it might be. Oh man, I'm so sorry. This has been so difficult for me to do this. Actually, I've got the surgery or the 2 teeth out 2 days ago, and I haven't done any podcasts, and like, oof, this has been tough. I'm gonna get through it though, because I've got more things to say. This depiction of the bad guys, Homelander, and all of them as Trump is very, I would say, purposefully irresponsible. It is accusing the Trump side of things of doing what I've only really seen being done by Democrats, pushing for the annihilation of their free rights, their free will, what they can do, take their children away, this sort of things that have been being said by the extreme left. And they keep saying that the extreme right wants to do this too. But I don't see that. I know some people will point to the abortion issue. I really think that needs to be put aside as its own separate issue. It's a very, very specific and calculated thing. And from the perspective of those on the extreme right, they're saving a life. And as much as people want to try to argue that that's not true in some way, it's like, come on, guys, don't be ridiculous. Obviously, that is true in some way. I'm pro-choice myself. I believe everybody should be able to choose for themselves. But that nuanced issue aside, which honestly, I believe it was all a setup. I think the Democrats did that to stir up a fighting point for the left against the right, because it was like the greatest thing that could possibly happen to the left to have that happen, so that there was a reason for everybody to vote left. It's just too convenient. And I don't believe any of this shit. I just do not like this assassination attempt on Trump. I don't believe anything. I don't I don't know if Trump people staged that so that Trump looked awesome, because boy, he came away looking great, or if this was the single biggest fuck up of the Illuminati of all time, but that seems highly unlikely. So it's all just shenanigans, man. I don't believe in any of this stuff, and this everything that's happening with these shows and the way they're bringing the DEI into the equation, it's just fucking up the organic nature of art. And these choices that are being made for these main characters seems very fundamental. You know, it's a popular term of being cucked. You know, like these dudes have been cucked. The ones who are masculine are nightmare people. Or, you know, it's like, it's just messed up. They're showing this lady as the sycophant, and like they're basically showing like how like a cult is made, and they're trying to depict the right as like fucking cult members. And this, guys, is dangerous as fuck to directly link so many things like this. What you're supposed to do is demonstrate ideas. You put it under a different name and have it not be so obviously the thing that you're talking about, so that people can identify the actions. But when you're leading the witness the way they are in The Boys, it just reeks to me of somebody who's probably illuminated on the inside of this thing and has been put in charge as a cultural vandal to take apart this series. You know, by the show was seen to be a huge success, especially by season 2, and then all of a sudden season 3, shit starts to get a little screwy, and season 4 things get a little screwy. And granted, you know, you got Jansen Ankles, I think his name is, as Soldier Boy. He's great. You know, like, they really elevate the hell out of the superhero characters. For the most part, the character Black Noir right now, who's an actor filling in for the previous Black Noir who died, and he doesn't know how to play the part right. He's hysterical. So I mean, you know, the show still has joy within it, but it's just become so fucking heavy-handed and irresponsible in its depiction of some sort of cult-like devotion to Trump, dude. The cult-like devotion goes both ways. You know, these freaking Biden forever people, no matter how much dementia he gets, like, you guys are out of your minds. It's crazy. You know, if you're not a Democrat going, hey, aren't there any other candidates that we could have? Then you must be crazy. Don't accept these offerings that they're bringing to you. It's your willingness to accept them that's allowing this to happen. You know, Bernie Sanders got screwed out of the thing. And, you know, I know a lot of people view Bernie as a socialist, whatever, but this is America. He can only go so far. But I do believe he's an empathetic person who believes in the principles that he professes. And that's the type of people that we need running the world. People who are fucking genuine and believe the shit that they say. So, you know, what does that say about Trump or fucking Biden? I mean, I think they both are like terrible fucking options. You know, I'd love to live in a world where it was fucking RFK running against fucking Tulsi Gabbard or something like that. That'd be a nicer world. You know? I mean, seriously, there are some reasonably responsible people, I think, in the world, and they're not running for office. Or most of the time they're not. Or they're being excluded in some other way, like RFK did, got excluded from the debates recently. RFK is a cool guy to look into. He's like me and so many out there. I'm sure RFK really does have a good idea about what's going on in the world industry, in the food industry, in the pharmaceutical industry. You know, this information's available in books. But if you just listen to what the mainstream media tells you, oh my God, you're in a lot of trouble. So this show has really become so obvious of its partisan leanings, and I'm actually disgusted by the dehumanizing way in which it's attempting to depict Republicans, because I have plenty of friends who are Republicans, and they are not these people. And I do not believe these people exist in any real measure anywhere but at the tippy tops of power at corporations and in boardrooms all over the fucking world. I believe that people like this exist. The Republicans, the regular people of the Republican Party and the regular people of the Democratic Party, none of them are as awful as these people. It's the annoying people on social media and the people in the media who want these jobs and are playing this fucking game and are part of these secret societies and all these. Those are the people who are doing these things. Russell T. Davies coming into Doctor Who and like lambasting the show in the name of DEI, like, fuck you fans, we're going to do whatever the hell we want with your precious intellectual property. I mean, I think that was also another Freemason secret society, Writers Guild, hey buddy, go over there and continue this plot that we have. And I know it sounds fucking crazy to you guys, but you haven't been reading about these things for 15, 20 years prior to them trying to do them. This playbook, so many of the things that have been going on over the past bunch of years, the plandemic, as I enjoy calling it, dude, that was a plan. I read about it at least 10 years before it happened. Not reading about it of like, oh yeah, some people online were saying that. No, I'm telling you, like, they had documents. There were various documents that you could see that outlined various plans that they had thought up and things that they had talked about and hypotheticals and all this shit. We're living in a really sketchy world, and the mainstream media has been playing a really fucked up game of politics where they are cheating. I don't like Trump, but it's not really fair what has been done and this demonization. And I really believe that it is meant to break us down and divide us up and get us to have a civil war. I don't think that's ever actually going to happen. But just seeing little bits of it breaking out online, you know, people buying, getting the bait and having these arguments. I mean, the stupid comments on this video that I saw about the boys, of all these people just going, oh yeah, you know, that's these big babies who are watching the show. They can't handle that the boys is, because the show's been going down in quality. First season and second season are good. The third season is the beginning of it really not being so great. And this season was just, boy, did it leave a bad taste in my mouth. It's just such a weird thing. And these people jump straight to these soy boys and the woke thing, whatever. Nah, man. They've majorly departed from the source material in lots of different ways. And I mean, changing Stormfront to a chick. I mean, I like some of the things that they did there. The first two seasons were good. A lot of changes they've made initially were good. But where the show has gone in this, like, Homelander appealing to the people and sycophant person, you know, not it being a threat of violence and because of the power that he had. Like, the power that Homelander has is that he's Superman. Not that he's Trump. Like, it's kind of stupid and, like, wastes the fundamental aspects of what makes Homelander so scary. The show has also done a good job with the Vought Industries and making that an interesting component in the show. And then, I mean, like, by this fourth season, I don't know, man. There's just so much stuff that it's really kind of going off the wall. But worse than that, it's just become a vessel for the feminization of man and the shaming of masculinity. The Boys was like masculinity to the hilt. And somehow they managed to feminize the fuck out of it. Even though Huey's the feminine and the masculine is Starlight and you know, his girlfriend, all the dynamics are just, let's say it this way. If we look at everything as like statistical averages, we would say that there is an irregular amount of white men in particular who are represented as complete pieces of garbage, sappy or weak, and you know, just there's so many. Look, violent people meet violent ends, and I like that is the theme of Quentin Tarantino's movies for the most part. Violent people meet violent ends. But, like, you know, it goes both ways. And the violent people meet violent ends thing is something that is important in the boys of like, they're using violence. You've got Huey trying to discourage the violence. You have Butcher in the comics at a certain point where he's like, he doesn't want to be a part of the violence anymore. That is a cool theme and that's important. But that's not the way in which we shame these men. We're not shaming them for their violence. We shame them for like every other thing. For dude as a spouse to his girlfriend who gets raped by Homelander, and they really just like Butcher is just, he always has the upper hand in the comics, and in a great way, in a really satisfying way, because there's always a clever idea or whatever else, and there's moments in time where he gets taken off his rocker, but it's always good and meaningful, and it's comes from the characters and the boys and their relationships. But here, he just like gets demoted in the third season and like really taken down a peg, and he's sick and he's gonna die, but he's got some weird superpowers, and I don't like it, man. I don't like it, and honestly, it made me sick. I saved this to talk about last because really not a fan. In the comics, Annie January, the what is his name? The girlfriend to Huey. She gets sexually assaulted early in the book, basically to get onto the team of the Seven. And she comes back as a character and has some of the sort of story that you see in the bit. But I'll say you don't actually see the rape. They have an episode of this show where Huey is strapped to a table and he can't get away. And at first he's kind of like in on the joke, dealing with it. And then at a certain point, it's very obvious that he's really not enjoying himself. And we're with him like that for a long time. You made us watch one of the main characters get sexually assaulted. You can do this in the beginning of a series a little bit easier if you wanted to really make people understand them, hate the people that did it to them, whatever it is. Or you could do this like they did with Annie January, where the implication is made and then you move on. But like they didn't cut and then cut back and you see he's not doing good and they're there to save him. You actually sit there. And the show seemed to revel in like putting a guy through this experience. Guys get raped all the time. That's not cool. Rape's not cool. I really didn't appreciate how this was done. I was very mad for a very long time. There was a gay rapist in Hollywood named Bryan Singer. And he was directing the X-Men movies, directing all these movies, and he was notorious. I'd heard from many friends for raping young kids, like teenagers, teenage boys who wanted to get work in Hollywood. And there was always these fucking cute boys in his movies. And, you'd hear these things and you'd be like, fuck, this guy, they probably fucking raped the hell out of this kid. Then he would drug them, then he would rape them. And it was never a big story in the press. They never made a big deal about it. And the only thing that I could see was because he was gay. And it was like kind of a little bit before Me Too, but then Me Too was going on and he still wasn't being Me Too'd. It was driving me fucking bananas. Sexual assault on boys is just as terrible as sexual assault on girls. And it's fucking sexist for you to think otherwise. Nobody should be put through that experience. And I shouldn't have to fucking watch one of the main characters that I like on a show that I'm watching get fucking sexually assaulted. It was like I was getting sexually assaulted the whole time, having to go through it with him. Like, fuck you. Like, I don't need to be fucking sexually assaulted. I haven't fucking sexually assaulted anyone. This sort of like blanket thing of like, Harbin Habay Chinoy, the one who wants to direct the new Star Wars thing, where it's like, I like to make men uncomfortable. What are you saying? Are you saying that, like, men fundamentally, we deserve to suffer? What sort of fucking bizarre statement is that? And what sort of weirdness are you trying to create between the sexes, the races, the sexuality? It's just they've divided us in all these ways, in all these boxes. Don't let them put you in a box and turn you against your humanity, your fellow humans on planet Earth. Members of our family are not our same sexual orientation. They're not always going to be our same political feelings. Sometimes we change our religions from family members. We'll have different religions to friends. We need to be able to learn how to live here together. And I think this so-called art that's being made on The Boys by this fucktard who's running the show over there and decided to actually go out of his way to point out that he's flagrantly using Trump as a... That's so fucking stupid. The Boys was created before Trump was a phenomenon in any way, shape, or form. He's not meant to be Trump. This show started out so good. It could have been so great. The first 2 seasons really just showed so much promise. And, man, if they handed it over to me and my buddy Aaron Sparrow from here, I promise you we could have written you some fucking stories that would have really, really blew your mind based on the stuff that was there, but continuing with the deepening that they had set up, but now have really squandered in just a fabulous way. I can't stand it. I can't stand it too because I think I'm going to watch the next season, which I think is the last season, because I care enough about the characters that I want to fucking see what happens, but I'm very aggravated about it. I really am very fucking aggravated about it. And, who knows? By the time we get to the 5th season, like if they lean harder, if they do what they did on Doctor Who, where they lean harder to try to piss the fandom off, and I hear about that's what's going on in episode number 1, I'm not watching. So we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, thanks for bearing with me. Every Monday, except for this Monday, I fucking missed it because of my thing, but I'm going to get my show done. We do All Your Favorite Bands Suck podcast, and it's like just a highlight of all my favorite bands. And I'm about to do Sum 41, but Rage Against the Machine and Flight of the Conchords and The Offspring and Beastie Boys and Nathaniel Radcliffe and the Night Sweats. Tons of great bands. If you like music, you should check it out. Just type in my name, Jesse Blaze Snyder, and feel free to follow and subscribe and comment and do all the things that help us to grow the podcast. Anyway, we have been growing pretty good. We're getting close to 1 million downloads every month. But granted, it's what do we do? Probably 8 shows a month. So I don't know what it translates to, but that means there's thousands of you guys, maybe even 100,000 or something, who are checking out the show every week, and I so appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Care Bear stare to you all. And I hope you'll join me again this coming Saturday for a coolest pick of some kind. And again this coming Wednesday for another awesome episode of The Coolest Geek Alive, where hopefully I'll be feeling a little bit better with this teeth thing. Anyway, I love you. Bye.
You've been listening to Coolest Geek Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snyder. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent geek culture content. Thanks for listening.
It's my favorite part! Isn't it heavy? I'll play that! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Coolest alive! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Stay with your tribe! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Revenge of the Geeks! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Week after weeks! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Laughing with you! It's gonna be fucking awesome! And crying sometimes too! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Spelling it out! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Making you shout! I'm a genius! I got gonna be fucking awesome. Talking some shit. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Living the shit. My voice is fucking awesome. Food in our mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Get in the mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Tell all your friends. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Call right or text. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Raising the bar. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Straight to the stars. It's gonna be fucking awesome. It's starting soon. Straight to the top of the awesome. Passing the moon. It's gonna be fucking awesome. On with the show. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Ready, set, go.
It's going to be fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Just wait. You'll see. You'll all see.
You'll all see.